Today I'm going to talk about the history of the wheel. So the first ever wheel that was used was the log rolling method, which was used in the second half of the Neolithic era. So it's not even considered a wheel by most historians, but it is the first step of like transportation. So people would just roll things over logs and move the back log to the front as they went forward. It was very inefficient and it required a lot of labor. Oops. So the next step was the transportation wheel. So first people would just roll things across logs, of course. The second step, they switched over to sledges, which meant they would just pull things across flat ground on top of like a sledge. And then they evolved it to rolling the sledges across logs, like embedded into the floor. And then after that, the sledges started making like grooves into the logs, so it created like a sort of axle shape in the middle of the log. And they realized that they could just attach that axle to the sledge and make a sort of wheel. And the final step of that was fixing the axle to the thing so only that the wheels would rotate, and the axle didn't create any friction in the ground. But it was still really heavy and had very large discs on the side. So the next step was in 2000 BC, Egypt. Egyptians created the first ever spoked wheel. So they would cut a lot of excess weight off of the wheel, just what was needed. So it was a lot lighter, but it was still really vulnerable to wearing and tearing because it was still wooden. So the next step in 1000 BC, the Celts created the iron rimmed wheel. So they would just attach a big iron rim to the outside of the wheel so that it wouldn't wear. But it was still really uncomfortable to ride on because it was just an iron wheel and it would bump a lot. So in 1847, so like 3,000 years later, Robert William Thompson submitted a patent for the pneumatic tire, which was an air-filled tire that it was air-filled, so it was just a lot more comfortable to ride on. And it started being used for bicycles and things like that. And then in 1888, Belfast, Ireland, John Boyd Dunlop, he popularized the pneumatic tire so that it would actually get like widespread use. And Dunlop also started the Dunlop Company, which is still really big in tire manufacturing today. And in 1891, Andre and Edward Michelin adapted the pneumatic tire to like other vehicles, so cars, tractors, stuff like that. In 1910, Charles Goodyear patented vulcanizing tires, which just meant that the tires wouldn't wear as fast, because with the old pneumatic tires, it wouldn't take a very long time for them to like melt and stick to the ground. So the vulcanizing tires made that take a lot longer to happen. And then Goodyear founded the company Goodrich, and they added carbon into the tires, so the vulcanizing tires made that take a lot longer to happen. And then Goodyear founded the company Goodrich, and they added carbon into the tires, so it made them wear even slower. And then in the 1960s, aluminum casting technology really improved. So that led to people creating aluminum alloy wheels, which aluminum alloy wheels were a lot less brittle than the old steel wheels. And they were also lighter than steel wheels, which caused them to have better handling on cars. And aluminum is also very good at conducting heat away, which meant that brake cooling was also very improved. And aluminum alloy also allowed for way more open designs, which also helped to dissipate heat. In 1971, Michelin also created the first ever carbon fiber wheels. So, I mean, they weren't really used at all though. they only started being used in like 2013 and on. But and the future of wheels, thanks to competition in the carbon fiber market, we'll likely see carbon fiber tires drop a lot in price in the future, so they'll become a lot more widespread. And as well as that, electric motors will also allow for a lot of flexibility in the wheels designs. So you can see like spokeless wheels here. Might be a thing in the future. And yeah, that's all I got.